Coming up, the musical adventures of Zuill Bailey. Whether by ice road, dog team, or on a flight across the Bering Sea, wherever Zuill goes,
welcome to Mekoryuk.
He and his cello are always at home.
Expect the unexpected?
What makes this tour of Western Alaska so exceptional?
Life is hard here, and so to carve out a niche for something of beauty.
It's very difficult to hear great music and not move and not be a part of it.
Ahead, Zuill Bailey, a messenger of music, and more.
Alaska, where there are old triumphs, but also new frontiers, with challenges as great as the state itself, but a belief that the best is yet to come, bringing you the faces, the places, and the spirit of the last frontier. This is Frontiers with Rhonda McBride.
Welcome to Frontiers. Zuill Bailey has become an unlikely messenger of music in our state, a job he took on when he became artistic director of the Sitka Summer Music Festival 5 years ago. Well, since then, he takes his cello and some of his performers on a winter tour to communities off the road system. Places like Nunivak Island, about the size of Rhode Island, in the middle of the Bering Sea, where the musk oxen and reindeer far outnumber the 200 people who live there in a community called Mekoryuk. The day begins with anticipation. The room is dark to help the children tune into the music. They're also encouraged to draw what they feel.
This is Prelude number 1 in G major by Johann Sebastian Bach.
In a few hours, the children will get to hear Zuill Bailey perform just for them.
Are you excited about tonight's concert?
Yeah!
Carol Peterson has her morning routines. But today, something entirely new is on the school menu.
I've never been to a concert before, so that's new to me, and it's exciting.
They've never had a cello in the building before,
Let alone a piano. But a pianist will be here too, Piers Lane from London.
Life is hard here, and so to carve out a niche for something of beauty, this is the first time that's been able to happen.
But the pump is primed.
Show me the way.
A year ago, a new teacher used his own money to bring ukuleles and guitars into the school, to make music a part of daily life. Although it's not in the job description, school principals often do double duty as a chauffeur for visitors. But it's not every day that a Grammy-winning cellist and an internationally known pianist comes this far afield to perform.
Welcome to Mekoryuk.
Other celebrities have flown here, but usually to hunt, not with cellos and portable pianos in tow, to play free concerts.
Each time I do one of these wonderful musical adventures, it's beyond anything I could have invented. Expect the unexpected?
As a Pied Piper of music, Zuill Bailey counts on the natural curiosity of kids.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
The first thing they asked about, the weather.
I did get cold. I got cold mostly here, where you live.
Quite a contrast from his last concert in Greece just days ago.
Yeah, startling to be transplanted from Greece and London.
But Piers Lane is excited just the same.
It feels like slightly pioneering work, which is lovely for me to be part of. I mean, it's all Zuill's vision, but I'm delighted to tag along and to do what I can. And these kids are so fresh and warm and innocent, just lovely, lovely kids.
And this white part right here is a horse's tail. Can you believe it?
This is one of those sounds you'll hear a lot. Contagious,
Believe me,
like the music.
It's very difficult to hear great music and not move and not be a part of it. Young people go against their instincts by being told to sit still and don't move. Can I play for you?
Zuill Bailey says most of us are already familiar with classical music. From the movies. Music is part of the story. The rhythm, a force that is always with us.
Done. Ba, 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 ba.
Zuill Bailey is kind of like a big kid himself.
All of those vibrations go into my heart.
Maybe it's the music that keeps him young.
So this is exactly what I felt like when I first played the cello. I'm just going to push down right here.
For Bailey, it's not enough to play music.
Like you're pulling a rope.
It's also important to share it.
Make the face that I do when I play.
You want 2 hot dogs?
2 would be great.
After a lunch of corn dogs, Zuill takes a break and ventures outside the school to experience something he's never seen before. How Mekoryuk herds reindeer. The meat is not only a staple of the diet, but also the economy, because it's prized all over the world.
It's spectacular. I mean, clearly they're masters at what they're doing.
Masters who will soon come in from the cold for chili and a concert. Since many rural schools don't have a piano, the Sitka Summer Music Festival has invested in this traveling keyboard. Dr. Don Lehman, the festival's president, is the official roadie for this tour.
The piano's rather heavy for an elder like me lugging around.
But Don is happy to do it.
I've always felt that Western Alaska doesn't get the respect it deserves, and clearly it doesn't get the classical music it deserves.
Piers Lane usually plays on 9-foot grand pianos. And although this piano is electric and smaller, it still lights a fire. Zuill Bailey calls his cello a torch that has taken him all over the world, and now to Mekoryuk. An audience so different from those in the big city, yet so much alike. Although the concert comes to a close, the feelings linger.
Relaxed and make me want to dance.
That piano with all that hands going back and forth so fast.
Joy in the heart.
So when you watched your kids tonight, what did you see?
Oh, I saw magic in them.
The musicians stay behind at the school to bed down for the night. Normally, they'd be put up in 5-star hotels. But Piers, who has a bad back, gets the cot. Zuill gets the gym mat.
This should be interesting. How my back will respond tomorrow. I find it very funny. It should be fine.
Zuill apparently felt fine enough to play some hoops, and after the weather delayed his flight, he worked in another classroom visit.
Don't you ever get a break from playing the cello?
Why would I need a break? It's kind of like a nourishment for me, playing the cello.
Bailey readily admits he's addicted to music and travel. Much like a modern-day Johnny Appleseed, Zuill moves on to sow more seeds.
I signed up for the unknown. I signed up for the thrill of what comes with being a musical messenger, almost.
Well, there were 2 other trips on this Western Alaska tour, Bethel and Kwethluk. Up next, our musical adventure with Zuill Bailey and Piers Lane continues with a drive up the frozen Kuskokwim River. After their swing through western Alaska, the next stop for Zuill Bailey and Piers Lane, a free concert at the Anchorage Museum. These lunchtime performances are part of the Sitka Summer Music Festival's annual winter concert series in Anchorage. People who work downtown look forward to a chance to escape from their jobs and soak in some music.
I've seen him play before here, and it's just a joy to come over and listen to him again.
There was also a weekend round of performances, and just before Zuill Bailey was about to fly off to a concert in Phoenix, we had a chance to sit down with him and talk about what it means to be a messenger of music in Alaska. So I have to ask, how does this tour of Western Alaska compare to your other tours?
Nothing compares to Alaska. Every time I do one of these tours, I am emotionally drained, physically exhausted, because they're so moving to me. The children's reactions, the location of where we went and how far it really was away. You know, looking on a map, it doesn't look like that big a deal, but it was really far away. And looking at the footage that we just kind of perused was, I can't believe we did that.
And how about Piers Lane, who flew in from London just before this Western Alaska swing? What was it like for him?
I didn't know what it was going to be like for him. You know, Piers is a very urban guy. He plays in Sydney. He plays in London all the time. He plays in the major capitals. And I didn't warn him about this. He trusts me, and he trusts what we do, and he knows what we do here. But the resilience that one has to have to get through something like this and also roll with the punches is something you don't know until you do it. So I didn't know if he was going to flip out when it started, getting on the airplane or going on the ice road, or sleeping in the school, or playing on the electric keyboard that we had to take on the airplane over there.
Most piano players are very picky, especially at his level, as to what kind of piano they'll play.
Sure.
So it was really amazing that he would play a portable keyboard like this.
And to be honest, it was so beautiful what he did. I mean, he didn't complain because he knew there was no other option. He also knew that they haven't heard a piano there in decades. So again, he was wonderful, and I'm even more kind of in shock and awe that he continues to talk about the impact it's made on him, which is what I'd hoped, that we, when we go to places in Alaska in general, that people take a part of Alaska with them and become kind of ambassadors for this wonderful state.
Well, the principal of the Mekoryuk school said it was like pieces of souls were exchanged.
Yes.
Actual, I mean, it almost sounded metaphysical of what was experienced.
Look, in most concerts, the musicians walk in the back door. They don't get to be with the audience. They play on the stage. They walk back out. They walk and they leave. It's a presentation. It's not an exchange. This is exactly the opposite. We walked into these places with the audience. We ate with them. We were with them all day long in the school. So by the end of the day, you know, the kids were begging me not to leave, and that again, it's so different. It kind of reminded me of what we do with music. Music is just the small little part of it. I make such a big deal about, you know, bringing the beauty of music to people, but it really just becomes a magnet to bring people together, to celebrate being together.
Well, when you signed on to be the artistic director for the Sitka Summer Music Festival, you talked about outreach at that time. That was 5 years ago. Did you have any idea that your outreach would be like this?
Oh, well, I'm in music because people brought music to me. I didn't know when I was 4 years old, and I know what people showed me. And the word outreach is changing. We're now calling it community engagement, because the concert halls for classical music need to be small. They need to be intimate. It's chamber music. Chamber is a room. And my point for going in the community is also just to be able to, where we're so mobile with this stuff. And it all started a long time ago, 26 years ago, when I realized that I was of the age that the people came to my schools when I was 5 and 6 years old. So I started going and doing that. No, I didn't know. That's just a school in a regular neighborhood in Washington, D.C., where I grew up, or other cities. I had no idea when I came here that we would have to do so much and go so far to bring music to people like that.
Well, speaking of going so far, you took a journey down the ice road from Bethel to Kwethluk. What was that like?
Scary. I kind of go into, it's kind of like a concert situation, a very pressured concert situation. You kind of go into survival mode and you have great focus. When we were on the earth and then we went onto the water with our truck, I kept thinking, don't think. We wouldn't be doing this if it weren't okay.
And so when you arrived in Kwethluk, what did you experience?
When we played for them, I could see a lot of the young men wanting to talk to us. And I say that because afterwards, after we finished our presentation, one of the high schoolers came up and said, "We'd like to play for you now." An offering, a musical offering. So we went back in the gymnasium, and they brought their drums out, and they started doing their wonderful
traditional dances.
Yes, with the music and telling stories through their own music and dance. So that was unexpected, and I'd never heard that before. And to also be able to ask them, that's just as daunting to me as maybe them listening to classical music. I didn't know what I was listening to. I didn't know what the gestures were. The obvious ones were a bow and arrow doing these kinds of things, but I had to ask. I wanted to know.
But intuitively, you knew that it was special.
Of course it was special, because I could see that it was what they believed in. It was coming from, their families. And I always say that anything, you can tell when something's special, even if you don't know why. But while it was happening, I just kind of was taking it all in and trying to comprehend it. And then, of course, as I said, afterwards, I asked them, what does this mean? And they started telling me verbally the story of what they were doing, and then it all made sense.
And do you think the same thing happens when you and Piers Lane shared classical music with the audiences in Western Alaska?
Well, I hope so. I hope so. What's nice about the community engagement is that it's a little less formal than a normal concert, so we can talk to them and tell stories and set up the pieces and stop and start if necessary.
Well, one of the things I heard you say years ago is that intuitively, whether we know classical music or not, we know what's good. That no matter what experience we've had with music, we can always tell that the music is excellent, that the song has some special quality to it. Could you talk about that?
Well, I mean, Chopin, Beethoven, Bach, everybody knows these names because they were great composers in history. Their music was revolutionary at the time and still to this day. They were the example. They represented their time in history. Their melodies were accessible and beautiful and pushing the limits. And that's been celebrated for hundreds of years now. So, I mean, again, I've never had someone say, I don't like Chopin. I've never heard someone say, I don't like Bach, because it's great. And I don't know how to answer your question except for even when I walk in a museum and I see art, I know that I understand the impact and why it's there, because it is very special and interesting and thoughtful. It makes me think about it. And I guess to answer your question in a nutshell, when I'm playing a piece of music, usually I know the intent of what the music is supposed to do. It's supposed to make people smile or sad or want to dance. And that's the power of music to me, that it's and why it's used in so many different levels of life, entertainment, like again, in movies or at a dinner party or whatnot. It makes us feel, and feeling doesn't necessarily have to be good. I always tell people, what's the opposite of love? Indifference. I don't go through life just coasting. When I see something that's good and makes me feel something, I want to be a part of it. And I like to share that with other people through classical music.
A lot of people come to Alaska in the summer when it's beautiful and they can fish and go out in a boat, but you chose to do your tour in the heart of winter.
Mm-hmm. February could be the most interesting time because, you know, when it's cold and it's that cold and that dark throughout Alaska, we want to get people out of their homes to see each other as opposed to just kind of waiting for the next season to happen.
How do these trips, these adventures into rural Alaska make you feel?
Like I'm making a difference. I think everybody wants to feel like they make a difference in this world, and we can all do it in different ways. I just happen to do it through music and education and through the Sitka Summer Music Festival. I feel very lucky and fortunate that our paths crossed and that it's already been 12 years.
That you've been coming to Alaska.
Well, my first summer was 2007 with the Sitka, and I played in Alaska in 2004. But since 2007, every year, I've come at least 2 or 3 times a year now. And before we know it, it'll be another 20 years and 30 years. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
One stop on Zuill Bailey's tour we haven't talked about yet, Bethel. How the kids at one elementary school reacted in a surprising way. By definition, a luxury car in Bethel is one that provides dependable transportation in the winter. And Myron Anksman, a Bethel lawyer, provided that for Zuill Bailey. There just wasn't any leg room as part of that. Now, when it comes to transportation, this is the red carpet treatment in Bethel. Visiting VIPs like Zuill Bailey get treated to a little taste of the trail. But this is the shot that we want to leave you with. The students at Gladys Jung Elementary School gave Zuill Bailey and Piers Lane a standing ovation. The staff says that they've never seen kids do this at a performance before. Wow. Well, one final note in case you're wondering who picked up the tab for these tours and free concerts. ConocoPhillips and a Harper Arts touring grant from the Rasmussen Foundation. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.